Welcome back, friends, to the Food Freedom Podcast. I am your host, Coach Mary Roberts. I'm a food addiction and recovery coach, helping women break free from the destructive cycle of food obsession and disordered eating by repairing their relationship with food. Today, I want to talk about something that I don't think we talk about enough. And that is the subtle signs that you are actually healing in food addiction recovery. So when we think about healing, I think a lot of us think, we think about the big things, right? The weight loss, the consistency, the so-called, perfect days with food, right? Abstaining and complying, right? We think about those big things, but that's not actually where real recovery shows up first. It shows up in more subtle, quiet ways, and I want to point those out to you. They're ways that are easy to overlook if you're not paying attention, and then you miss the fact that you're actually changing. And that can be dangerous because, when we don't see progress, we start listening to that voice of sabotage say things like, this isn't working, you need to do something else. You're still struggling, nothing's changing. And none of that is true. It's just not true. So let's talk about what healing actually looks like, especially in food addiction recovery. One of the first subtle signs is that you have a higher tolerance for discomfort. You have a higher tolerance for discomfort. That's huge because food addiction is at its core an inability to tolerate discomfort, right? Hunger, stress, boredom, loneliness, frustration, right? We've trained ourselves to immediately escape those uncomfortable feelings with food. But in recovery, that starts to change and we learn to pause. We feel the call and the pull, but we don't immediately act on it. And even if you eventually cave, sometimes there's a gap now, right? That gap is healing. Another sign is being triggered doesn't derail your entire week anymore. Maybe you overeat, maybe you have a moment, but instead of spiraling into, well, I already messed up, I may as well keep going, you catch it faster. You recover quicker. You don't turn one moment into 5 days. That is massive progress. That's healing. Here's another one people overlook. You start choosing healthier coping tools more often than not. Not perfectly, but more often, right? Maybe instead of going straight to food, you choose to go for a walk. You journal. You call a friend. You sit with some uncomfortable feelings for a minute, right? Even if you still struggle, the fact that you're even trying something different, that's a sign that your brain is rewiring, okay? Another subtle shift is that you start to understand why you do what you do. Instead of just saying willy-nilly, I have no willpower, you start noticing patterns. Oh, I always want to eat at night when I'm overtired. I get triggered after stressful conversations with people that annoy me. Or, I use food when I need relief. Okay, all that is awareness. And in that awareness is where change can happen. And that is healing. And here's one that it really matters, and that is self-compassion starts to become easier. I know this is a tricky one because a lot of people think that being hard on themselves is what keeps them accountable, but in reality, it keeps you stuck. When you start saying, okay, that didn't go how I wanted, but I'm not giving up. That's not you being weak. That is maturity in your recovery. That is healing. Here's another sign. You can feel more without needing to fix it with food. You experience a wider range of emotions, and instead of immediately numbing out, you sit with it. You let it be there, even if it's uncomfortable. And that's one of the hardest skills to build in recovery, but it's one of the most important, and it's evidence of healing. Here's a practical one. You start taking better care of yourself in small ways. Maybe you're skincare routine improves, your hygiene, or you keep up with things around the house, you respond to situations quicker. And those things might sound unrelated, but they're not. When you're deep in food addiction, everything in our life can be neglected or start to slip or not get our full attention, right? And when we're healing, our life starts to come back online and we get better in all areas. And another big one is you can focus on things other than food. Food isn't constantly running in the background of your mind. You have moments, even small ones, where you are feeling free. And if you've lived with food noise for most of your life, you know how powerful that freedom can be. And here is one of my favorites. Getting out of bed and starting your day feels just a little bit easier. It's not perfect. It's not amazing. It's just easier. And sometimes, you're not waking up thinking food as the first thought. And sometimes that's the only evidence you need that something has changed, right? And finally, is another good one. You start advocating for yourself. You start setting boundaries. You say no to things, people, situations. You stop putting yourself in situations that constantly trigger you. And that's not being selfish. That's self-care. That's a part of recovery. And that's a sign of healing. So here's what I want you to take away from this episode. If you're only measuring your progress by the scale or by whether you had a, quote, perfect day with food, you're missing the real transformation process. Recovery is happening in all those small moments when you halt, when you become aware of something new, and in your day-to-day choices. And if you can start recognizing those subtle signs, you'll stop telling yourself that you're failing and that you can't do it. And you'll start realizing, hey, I'm actually changing, and that will keep you going. Whew, okay, if this episode resonated with you, if you're ready to go deeper into the work of recovery, I want to invite you to come join me inside my Food Freedom Program. Whether that's through working with me one-on-one, joining the Food Freedom Tribe, or just doing my course on your own time. This is where we take everything we talk about on this podcast and everything that is included in my course. You act in how to actually apply it in real life with true support, accountability. You don't have to keep doing this alone. Make sure you head over to my website, foodfreedomwithmary.com. Get on my email list so you don't miss any new episodes or tools or coaching opportunities. And if you're ready for support, I am waiting for you. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.